Hey everybody, it is Romania Black, and we are on the second and last movie of the Untamed. I'm really sad. I'm really sad. This is the Untamed Living Dead. So I kept saying it was like the Undead, but I'm going off of IQ, IQ.com. They had a Fatal Journey, and then they have this movie, and the quality of Fatal Journey was great. The subtitles were great. I really was impressed. I was happy I got like the $1 subscription to watch it, and I'm doing the same thing here with the Living Dead movie. The only thing I know about this movie is that it has Ning and Sizhui in it. That's it. but it is the last film. So I do have the rest of these weeks planned out. So I went ahead today and did the planning for the rest of the week. So my nice little Ewell Oi posted here. But so this week we're going to be watching the movie, and then earlier today the chapters 106 through 110 came out, along with Gifting a Dog, the extra for that. Basically, the audio drama season 3, episode 16. Next week, in the morning, we're going to have chapters 111 through 113, the end of the main story of Sizhui, along with Into the Dream Part 3, episode 17 of the audio drama. We're going to have that in the morning. And in the afternoon, next week, during this normal slot that y'all are watching now, I'm going to be reacting to the Untamed songs. The people on Patreon, they came out in droves, gave me lots of links. And so I've been like combing together a playlist of all the songs to react to. I'm going to have my tea, my box of tissues, and basically just react to the songs for the series. I'm pretty excited. So that'll be next week. And then the following week will be our last main thing with Sizhui, and that is going to be all of the extra chapters, all of the extra audio drama extras with that. The spicier stuff will be that week. And then I figured, since we're doing the spicier stuff that week, during this time slot, we'll have the Wankshin edition, the special edition of the Untamed. There was a cut together montage on YouTube that I'm going to be reacting to with all the extra bonus scenes that weren't in the Untamed. So that's going to be it. And then finally, so 3 weeks out from this week, I'll be starting Heaven Official's Blessing. I'm going to be watching episodes 1 and 2 together from Netflix because they both go together. Everybody told me that it's one episode together. Netflix just split it into 2. So I'm going to be watching it all together as one. I'm pretty excited. And then in the afternoon, we're going to be, I've had several people on Patreon send me lots of behind-the-scenes extras. Obviously, I don't have time to watch every single one. That's like hours upon hours upon hours. But I had patrons send me the greatest hits. The ones that they said are the must-see ones. So I'm like, okay, I'll react to those. So I've got a whole list of those to watch, and we'll do that in the afternoon. Then I'll kind of be like our transition into heaven, from the Untamed and Sizhui into Heaven Official's Blessing. So I'm really, really excited, but I am sad that this is the last official movie for the Untamed that I'm watching, even though I'm going to be doing the Wankshin edition of the Untamed. That's still, I guess that's the last version, but I am sad. It's like I've really enjoyed this series, and it feels like it's gone by way too quickly. It feels like I just started it back in the fall, and now we're already here. Crazy times, right? But yeah, so we're going to get into this movie. I don't know what to expect. It's an hour and a half, so like 2 episodes of the Untamed, basically. But I'm curious. The last episode, Fatal Journey, I really loved the Ni brothers in it. That seeing Huisang and Mingzhu have more bonding moments together was wonderful. There was some stuff that you were like, yeah, this is a standalone movie, but it's fine. So I'm excited to see what all goes on in this film and what happens. So it is storming outside. It's been raining all day, and it's been just one of those gloomy, cold days. And so you're just like, you just want to kind of like curl up and watch a movie. So that's what I'm going to do. So with that being said, we are going to start the Untamed Living Dead and see what all this is about. It's not canon, so I'm a little nervous, but we'll see what happens here in 3, 2, 1, and let's find out. Okay. When I said I was going to watch these movies, several people were like, oh, I like Fatal Journey because it's all about the Ni brothers. It's more of the Ni brothers. And they were like, yeah, you'll if you like the Ni brothers, if you like Huisang, then you'll really like that. And I was like, okay, cool. And then when I said I was going to watch the other one, they were like, the other one! The other one, everyone seemed to have like a mixed reaction to. They're like, oh yeah, you need to see it. But the consensus that I'd gotten going into this was that it was not going to be as good as Fatal Journey. It is not. But I am pleasantly surprised with a lot of it. There are some moments in here that I'm like, okay. But then I actually am really pleasantly surprised by the unreliable narrator and the twist. The twist was cool. I liked the twist a lot until we got to the final act. So yeah, I took lots of notes to get through this about Fu Fang and everything. I feel like the funny thing in all of this is that it feels like Wuxin, this was the, after Ning was like, oh, I'll go find my own way, my own path, and do things my way. And it's like, okay, cool, Ning. I don't know if Wuxin's idea of that was that you taking Sizhui into these life or death battles and then giving Sizhui a piece of yin iron. Like, no, we established how corrupting that is. Don't give it to Sizhui. Take it away from him. I'm glad this isn't canon, but it's kind of funnier because it's not canon. I'm like, okay, definitely Yi City vibes in this for sure. Definitely Yi City vibes. The way that Fu Fang, the way that the city of Fu Fang is, has a very Yi City vibe to it. Yi has a very old Zhao Yi or Zhao Yi, as we find out. He had a very Yang vibe to him. Like, once we found out who he really was, I was like, okay. But then, what? So, ghosts in my Untamed? How did this get past the censors? I liked that for a while it seemed that there were actual ghosts. And then they talked about puppets, but we really don't see puppets until the last part of the battle. And then they show up. I'm sorry, but first and foremost, if y'all didn't know, I am not a horror movie person. I can do thrillers, I can do creepy, but the jump scares and the horror movies, as you probably saw at the beginning of this, not my cup of tea. I was like, I'm gonna head right out if that's what it's gonna be. And you can tell, that's the worst part, is that you can tell when something's framed and shot for a jump scare. Just the way they do the camera angles and everything. I was like, there's gonna be a freaking jump scare. And there was, and I was scared. So, there you go. I did think the opening of this in the intro was interesting. I loved the artwork, like all the colors, and the music was creepy, and all the skeleton hands and everything. It was really a creepy vibe. I liked it a lot. So I got the thing I do like about this, with Ning, it's kind of definitely a mixed bag. I mean, Sizhui is Sizhui. He is our pure, innocent junior duckling. Sizhui is always innocent. With Ning, it's this weird mixed bag, right? Because on the one hand, he reminded me a lot of, again, going back to Yi City, he reminded me of Song Lan, of him just like walking around exercising spirits, like going to town to like save the townspeople undercover and they can't tell he's a puppet. Like, I liked that. I liked that aspect of Ning, but he looked so different in this. Like, I almost thought it was a different actor until literally the third part. And then I was like, no, it's him. But I don't know, the makeup was different, like his eye makeup was different, and his eyebrows looked different, and his wig was not as floofy as it was in the Untamed. Like in the Untamed, when that hair comes out, it's like a mane, it's like flowing, and here it felt like it was too straightened, and there was like little wisps, but it didn't look the same, and Ning did not look like Ning. Like, you can wrap chains around him all you want, but he just didn't look like he normally does, and I was like, it was very interesting. I didn't know what to make of it. It was interesting, right? And then them damn Twizzler chains. I like in the Discord, someone was like, they were from the UK, and they're like, I don't know what Twizzlers are. I have to look that up. I was like, oh yeah, no, they're an American snack. You're not missing much. They taste like garbage. I don't like Twizzlers, but they taste like just like stale gummies to me, and I don't like licorice either, so they're not always licorice flavored. There's some that are like fruity flavored, but they just taste like stale rubber to me. I'm not a Twizzler fan, but they have an iconic design, and so the chains that Ning like swirls around in here, just like Fatal Journey, they look like a bunch of Twizzlers. That's why I made the Twizzlers facing the Grudge. Zhao looking like the Zushu looking like the Grudge. It's great. But yeah, I feel like when we first meet Ning and Sizhui, it looks like Ning's lost weight. Like, his face looks thinner, and I don't know if he just doesn't have that cute, pudgy, like, cinnamon roll face. He looks thinner, and Sizhui looks a little bit older. So interesting, right? Very interesting. But I love that Sizhui uses his zither. He channels a lot of Wanji in this, which I like. I was a little confused when we first get to like him using the zither on the corpses, because the show seems to like, it teeters towards like, is it inquiry or is it empathy? And I feel like it's more inquiry, but then they show him inhabiting the corpse. And I'm like, is it empathy? So I feel like the movie didn't quite understand empathy versus inquiry. So it has this weird kind of like hodgepodge in the scene with him, but it's like, okay, sure, fine. But even though Sizhui has the same vibe to him, I felt like Ning he didn't have that cinnamon roll charm. He was like too serious, right? And I feel like with Hui Sang in Fatal Journey, it works because we've established the entirety of the Untamed that Hui Sang was acting. So the entire time that Hui Sang was acting like a dumb cinnamon roll, it's because it was an act. It was a facade. It was him just putting on a show to hide like the fact that he was seeking revenge. So when you see him more serious in Fatal Journey, it's a precursor to all that with Yao killing Mingzhu. So it makes sense that's the real Hui Sang. That all makes sense. Here, with Ning being more serious, I feel like it doesn't translate as well because Ning wasn't acting in the Untamed. He is just our cinnamon roll zombie or our cinnamon roll puppet in this case. But here he tries to act more serious, and it's not the cinnamon bun Ning that I like. So it was fine. It was just very different, and it stands out as different, right? It's interesting. So I like that we have the Zhao family set up. They all did. It very much tied back to Yi City and Yang. Yang killing all of the Chan family. Very ties back to all of that, or the Qing family. And then there was the one thing where like Ning was affected by the poison gas. I'm like, if he's a puppet in the novel and the Donghua and the audio drama, he is dead. So the poison gas wouldn't affect him. But here, since they have to establish that he's not dead, he's just a living puppet. Okay, show with your censorship, then it makes sense why he's affected by the poison gas. And he pushes Sizhui back. It's like, okay, fine. But yeah, the chained up Ning, it just looks different. And yeah, in when he was getting poisoned, it showed him in the 90s Creed music video. That was just like the way that they shot the lava and everything, it just looked like a 90s rock metal video. I was thinking Nightwish, I was thinking Creed, I was thinking of like Disturbed. I was like, what is this? And I just went, and in that scene when Ning is chained up, he looks distinctly different. There's something about like his eye makeup, the eyeliner or something, it's not right. It just felt off, right? Something just wasn't right. But, okay, so we have the stranger talking about the ghost killing the family, and his name is Zhao Shishao, that he's attacking the kids and everything. And we have Zhao Yi is afraid of the flame, talking about setting fire to the mansion. We get all that established. This is the part that I think is really cool. I love that we get introduced to Yi, and he seems like the victim. He seems like this innocent brother to Qing. And the moment that we started the whole brother story, here's the thing. I was like going, man, he really likes Qing, even though they're siblings. Like, they're half siblings, but it seems kind of weird. And I was getting both Wuxian vibes with Yanli in that moment with him when he has the flashback with Qing at the beginning, but also like Yao vibes because he said he was the half brother and the son of a concubine. I was like, okay, that's kind of like Yao. Interesting. We're kind of blurring and blending these things together, but he's a totally unreliable narrator. And the one thing I love that this movie does is that you get maybe a hint of it at the beginning, but he sells it really well, and so you're just like, okay. And you think it's just a run-of-the-mill story that, oh, this guy was in love with Qing, but she didn't know the real him. And you think that this story is very cut and dry and cookie-cutter, but then when you get the twist of him being the unreliable narrator, that part I really love. I love Ning and Sizhui piecing it together that, oh, this isn't right. It's like, okay, I like the twist. The twist in the movie is probably my favorite part when we find out that he's not who he says he is. I'm like, okay, cool. But yeah, they're lantern makers. I like that. And they're tied to the Wen family. I like there's a little continuity there, a little tie-in. That's really neat. But yeah, the half-sister sibling thing. And I was like, man, you really like your half-sister. I was like, You know, back when Madame Jin was talking to Yanli in the Untamed about how it's not appropriate for her to go with Wuxian, even though he's not technically her brother. I got those same vibes in this. I was thinking back, and I didn't comment on it, I don't think, in the reaction, but when she was like all with Yi at the beginning of this, I kept thinking of Madame Jin telling Yanli, being like, it's not cool for you to walk around with Wuxian because even though you're siblings, people will get the wrong idea. I got that vibe. I felt like with Yanli and Wuxian, it's not warranted because they do seriously have a brother-sister vibe and they treat each other like that. But with Yi and Qing, I definitely got that like, oh, this is where you could misconstrue and think that because he's like all up on her. But then when you find out later that he is the servant, he's not the brother, it's like, oh, okay. That explains why he's like acting so flirty and like all about her, because he is all about her because they're not siblings. I'm like, okay. And so then we have Zhao showing up, or Zhou. We have Zhou, I'm going to call him just Zhou. We have Zhou showing up. And Zhou, he seems, it's funny, the perspective of this film. It's funny because you see Yi's perspective of Zhou, and you see the how Zhou actually is, and it's the reverse. Like the way that Zhou is presented as cocky and arrogant but harmless, it's not the true representation. It's just how Yi interprets it, and it's like, oh, that's so cool. But I gotta say, kissing, okay, all right, movie, censors. We don't get any kissing in the Untamed. Not one. Not one. Not a heterosexual kiss between Yanli and Zixuan. No. Not a, kiss between Wanji's parents shown off screen. No. We don't get any Wangshin business. But you give us, in the second movie, starring Ning and Sizhui, you give two side characters an actual lip-to-lip lock? What? I'm sorry? This is what we were saving it for? Okay, sure. I'm kind of floored. They got away with it. And I'm like, why? We wasted... You mean you got a one-kiss card and you spent it on these two nobodies in this movie? I'm out. I was just amazed that they actually did it. And I was like, in this series, how dare you? But yeah, so then they talk about the cousins, Lu Yang and the cousins here, and they bully up Zhou. But it makes sense now. They weren't bullying Zhou, they were bullying Yi. It was actually just the reverse. They were bullying Yi all about it. And he's the sorcerer with black magic, not Zhou. It's like, okay. And of course you have to tie it into Yin Iron, because if there's one MacGuffin that the show has to bring up, it's the Yin Iron. I'm like, okay. And the whole thing with Yi, the moment he was talking about like people not believing him and everything, and it was starting to be like, well, then why did he spare you? And why are you still alive? And yeah, the old lady said at the beginning that all the family members died, but you're still here. What's up with all that? And from that point, everything starts to unravel slowly but surely. And it's really cool. I really liked it. But they sneak in. I like that 7 days is like the big thing in this series. Like the 7th day of the 7th moon for everything to go awry. And then I definitely saw, like with Zhou, like, and I guess Yi in this case, because he's actually the sorcerer, lots of Yiling Patriarch parallels. Lots of things. And lots of parallels with Yang, because as it turns out, Yi's trying to resurrect Qing, and it's very much like Yang trying to resurrect Jingxin. It's like, okay, all right. But then, Qing burning alive. I didn't think about it in the moment, but I'm surprised we didn't get a more visceral reaction from Ning, because his sister, who is also named Qing, was burned alive. What? What movie? Okay, that was a choice. And I'm glad now that we saw it like 3 times on screen, Qing burning, I'm glad we didn't see Wen Qing burning. I really am, because I don't know if I could have taken it. There's a character in Game of Thrones that gets burned at the stake, and it's really horrifying and graphic. And this was kind of, it wasn't as graphic as Game of Thrones, but it was not pleasant. And so I didn't realize it. But yeah, Wen Qing burned alive, and then this Qing sister burned alive. Like, I guess the director's like, well, here's what it would have looked like. And I'm like, thank you. Now I don't have to see that with Ching, ever. Glad that MXTX decided to do that off screen. Probably for the better. But yeah, then we decide, then it's, I was like, this starts to get a little bit weird, because why did he spare Yi to get the manuscript? It all wasn't adding up. But then everything, and the whole thing of him not being a murderer, it sounded very much like Hui saying, he was like, I'm not a murderer. And then Zhao pointing at him, or Zhou pointing at him. And then we get the whole thing about the unreliable narrator. And it's a great twist. I love it. It's an amazing plot twist. I love that they did the flashback and they recontextualized it to where you see Zhou being like, oh, and you see that he actually was, that Yi was just jealous of him, and his jealousy led him to like go crazy, and he accidentally kills Ching, and then just like Yang with Jingxin tries to bring her back, but we know that it's not going to work, right? Or we think it's not going to, and then we'll talk about that. But yeah, the one thing that was never really explained was how Zhou was a puppet. And I guess that Yi just made him, they kind of explain it later on. They say that he made him a puppet so that he could terrorize the villages and no one would know it was Yi. And then Yi could just get more bodies to try to resurrect Ching with. It's like, okay, I guess they do explain it. It's just kind of odd, right? But the fact that Yi loved her, and then the moment that little kid is talking to the mom and calls her Ching, and Ning's like, funny that. The whole thing was they weren't siblings. They were lovers, or he wanted them to be lovers, and it just didn't work out. But yeah, definitely the Yang vibes. I'm sorry, but the whole thing with Wuxian, like the whole thing, I get that in order for him to break free, he establishes that, because he's like, oh, you're just a mindless puppet and everything. And he's like, well, me being a puppet and Zhou being a puppet are kind of two totally different circumstances. But the whole Wuxian thing was really cheesy, and I was like, And the sad thing is, I don't know which would have been worse. I really don't, because on the one hand, you know it's not Zan. They never show his face. It's clearly an actor that's dressed up as Wuxian, kneeling before Ning. And I don't even think the voice acting matched up. It didn't sound like Wuxian at all either. It sounded like somebody different, like somebody imitating Wuxian. It didn't even sound like his voice actor. And I don't know which is worse. I don't know what I would have been more frustrated with, because I was frustrated with it not being Zan and it being the lookalike. But I don't know. I may have been more frustrated if they had Zan show up for like the 30 seconds that he's there, smile at the camera and go, hey, it's me, Wuxian, and then disappear. I think I would have been more mad with that. So I guess in hindsight, I'm glad that they didn't go that route. They just were like, we just need him it's an emotional tie-in. It's going to explain Ning's motivation. We just need him for 30 seconds and he's out. I guess I'm okay with it. But I was like, really? That part was cheesy. And then the leveling up Super Saiyan with the irons, the Twizzlers going on full blast, and the rock music. I was like, why, show? I feel like these movies, in a lot of ways, Fatal Journey not so much, but here there's a really cool premise there, and I like the idea of the mystery of Modao Zushi. The thing with the unreliable narrator and the twist is the stuff that I love in Modao Zushi and the Untamed, that mystery and solving of the mystery there between these characters. But the action, Modao Zushi has had lots of action scenes, don't get me wrong. There's been lots of action scenes and fights and choreography. But at its heart, Modao Zushi is not an action show. It's a supernatural mystery, right? And it's a romance at its core. And so the action part just happens because plot. And so I feel like The Living Dead and Fatal Journey both try to have in their climax this big moment, this big battle. And all I could think of is, as I'm reading the actual novel, the climax of the story is taking place in a temple where our main characters are making out by candlelight while our villain is monologuing to his boyfriend. Like, it's the least action-oriented climax of a series, but it's perfect, right? And so that's all I could think of in this. I'm like, you don't have to make this big action scene for The Untamed. It's not necessary. That's not what this show is. But it tries to make it, and it's like, okay. And then the puppet's just exploding, like just ashes just blowing up. I was like, are you kidding? And I thought for a second that Yi exploded. I was like, did Ning just kill a guy? But no, he ninja vanished and went back to go resurrect Ching. And I was like, what? Oh. And then we get the Untamed logic that Ning never actually died. And I'm like, okay, do what you have to explain it. And I kept thinking that he wasn't going to be able to bring Ching back because Yang tried everything to bring Jingshin back and it just didn't work. But no, it works. I guess the difference is Jingshin took his own life. Jingshin took his life and did not want to be resurrected. And I think that Ching, she died under totally different circumstances and she wanted to come back if just so she could pass on. And there's this weird thing where she almost seems to forgive him because she does that little smile where she's like, and then it evaporates. And so I was like, did she just forgive him? I mean, cool. Good for you, girl, that you had it in you to forgive him for completely annihilating your family and ruining your life and killing your lover. Good on you to forgive him. But so it seems for a second like she does. But then Sizhui like just lays into him. Sishui's like, enough of this BS. You don't deserve forgiveness. It's like, whoa, Sizhui. All right. And then Ning hands over, gets the iron, and I do like that Ning says, he's like, I'm not going to let you kill yourself. I'm not going to let you take the easy way out. No. But then he makes him a puppet. What? He uses the in iron. Ning uses the in iron to make Yi into a puppet? Excuse me? I'm just like, wait, what? Hold on. That part was a little bit odd. And then just giving the in iron to Sizhui. If Wuxin could see that, he would have freaked out. He'd been like, Ning, what are you doing, my baby boy? Why are you giving him the in iron? It's not safe. Oh my gosh. Oh man, this was definitely a mixed bag of a movie. A very mixed bag of a movie. There are parts I like about it. I like the twist. The actor that played Yi, he was very handsome. Him and the guy at the very beginning that died, they were both good-looking actors. But Ning wasn't the same. He wasn't my cinnamon roll zombie. I did like Sizhui in this. I like that Sizhui got some action scenes where he was channeling his daddy Wanji. I was like, yes, that was really good. Wanji be proud of you. Wanji be proud of you, and we shouldn't be terrified of Ning giving you the in iron. No. But there are parts I liked about the story. I'll be honest, the first initial 5 minutes, I was like, okay, cool. And then for about 20 minutes in, I was like, okay, it was feeling a little run-the-mill, little bit Yi City light. And I was like, but then once I was getting a little skeptical, but then once we got to the unreliable narrator part, I was like, oh, this is cool. And then it just went off the rails. And I was like, give us that green screen at the end. But I am glad I watched it. I think the plot twist was fun. I am glad that I watched it. So if anything, to say that I've completed the Untamed collection. I like that. So yeah, I am curious to hear your thoughts down below about this movie. It's definitely, I like Fatal Journey more. But I will say the side characters they give us in these stories are pretty fun. I liked them. I liked it a lot. I liked the side story in this as well. They had to do something. They didn't have the balance of the Ni brothers. I would have liked a little bit more interaction with Sizhui and Ning, but I'll take what I can get. So yeah, so next week I'll be finishing up the novel portion, not the extra chapters, but the novel portion, and then I will be reacting to the Untamed songs. So I'm pretty excited. Y'all have been requesting them this whole time, being like, you need to listen to the lyrics, listen to the songs. I'm like, this is going to be sad, isn't it? So I'm going to get my tea ready. I'm going to get my tea, and I'm going to be like, okay, and just go from there. So I am curious to know your thoughts down below. I hope y'all enjoyed this reaction. I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, next week I will be back with the Untamed song reactions. And we'll get to all enjoy them together. So in the meantime, I'll talk to y'all next week. Have a great one, guys.